حياكم الله جميعا. ثواني بس بعدين نبدأ نرحب بضيفنا وندخل في صلب المحاور إن شاء الله ونسأل ضيفنا، وإذا عندكم أي سؤال اكتبوه في المنشن إن شاء الله وراح نسأل ضيفنا. أول شيء السلام عليكم جميعا. Welcome بن جيكوب. Welcome حاتم. Everyone.
Salam alaikum. Good evening, everyone.
وعليكم السلام. Hello, Mr. Ben Jacob. How are you?
I'm very well. It's my pleasure to be here.
Me too. We are so happy to host you, and you are the GOAT. Thank you for accept our invitation. We are so exciting to ask you some question about Saudi League players, a lot of subjects, but we're gonna get into the point and we will start a heavy subject. First of all, how about Kevin De Bruyne? Is he coming or not?
Yes, a very good question. I will answer in small English paragraphs and then you want to translate as I go along. Is this the way that is best for you?
Yes, we have a lot of translation here. We have Hatem and Hazza, also other friend. Don't worry about translation. You can talk whatever you need and take your time and go ahead.
Okay, good, because my Arabic is bad, but my English is okay, so I will do my best. Kevin De Bruyne is a top target, and he will either be presented with a proposal for 2024 or 2025. But if it is 2025, then the deal makers will try and create a deal where he is still released early enough to play in the Club World Cup. So this is a deal that is being considered primarily for Al Hilal, either now or 2025. And although Kevin De Bruyne said publicly 2 days ago that he is staying at Manchester City for this season, the proposal could still be presented for now, especially because it looks like Mo Salah will not be joining until 2025. If it is a now proposal, Manchester City expect 100 million English pounds or more, potentially closer to 150 million if we include the bonuses. And Kevin De Bruyne has not yet said yes to Saudi Arabia, but we have to wait and see whether that changes in the coming weeks. There's no rush because the Saudi window is not open yet, and Kevin De Bruyne has only just returned from Euro 2024. But if this deal happens, then my understanding is that it's Al Hilal, because they want Kevin De Bruyne to not just be an Al Hilal player in the Saudi Pro League, in the Asian Champions League, but they also want him to be the flagship signing, the marquee name that can also play with Al Hilal in the Club World Cup, which is summer 2025.
Okay, Hatem or Hazza, you can translate.
كابتن هيثم تفضل كابتن هيثم. حبيب مساء الخير جميعا. Okay, so Ben, I'll be translating right now. Okay, so طيب يا شباب، هو بيقول ان هو ممكن ينتقل في صيف، او الاكثر منطقيه بالنسبه للسيتي ودي بروينا ان هو ينتقل في صيف 2025، يعني الموسم القادم. ولكن لو في امكانيه ان هو ينتقل للدوري السعودي الصيف ده، خاصة إن نافذة الانتقالات السعودية لم أو نافذة الانتقالات يعني أو الانتقالات النافذة لسه ما فتحتش، فبالتالي المتوقع إن يكون الرقم الصيف ده كبير جدا. متوقع إن هو يكون ما يقارب ال 100 مليون، ومع الحوافز كمان رقم يوصل ل 150 مليون. لكن الخيار الأكثر منطقية في الوقت الحالي ولسه النافذة ما فتحتش هو الصيف القادم 2025. في شيء مهم جدا كمان، في حال انتقال كيفن دي بروينا للدوري السعودي هيكون للهلال، لأن الهلال اهتم بيه أكثر من مرة، كذلك بيعتبروه هو اللاعب الأهم في تشكيلة الهلال إذا تم التعاقد معاه في كأس العالم 2025. ده كل شيء.
Okay. تفضل ابو صالح.
Hello guys, hello everybody. How many years still in contract Kevin De Bruyne, Ben Jacob?
The standard 3-year deal, although sometimes what we'll find, as with Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, at the enemy, am I allowed to name Al Nassr on an Al Hilal feed? I don't know, but Cristiano Ronaldo signs a deal and there are talks about an extra year extension. And if that is agreed, then he'll end up staying until 2026 instead of 2025. So with players like De Bruyne, they leave it open because you can have the football contract, the opportunity to extend by 1 extra year, and also other contracts outside of football. So with Ronaldo, maybe with Benzema, if he wants to stay, they have the ability to have a tourism contract, an image rights contract, maybe even in the long term, a World Cup ambassador contract. So it's never as rigid as only 3 years and football. There's always the opportunity to earn more, even if the player retires from football.
اوكي ترانزليت ممكن يا
كابتن
هيثم.
اوكي، هو بيتكلم ان العقد بتاعه بيمتد ل3 سنوات وفي امكانيه للتجديد لموسم كمان، فبالتالي امكانيه خروجه هي يعني محتاجه مجهود شويه. يمكن ده خلاصه اللي هو قاله، لان كان السؤال كام سنه متبقيه في عقد كيفن دي بروينا، فهو في 3 سنين وخيار كمان لموسم رابع. فعشان كده دي صعوبه ان هو خروجه، او ان الموضوع محتاج مجهود شويه مع مانشستر سيتي.
تمام يا شباب، بس اعدوني في الحوار اذا عندكم اي سؤال اي شيء. بامكانكم تسالون دايركت بن جيكوب، او اللي يبغى يكتب لي بالمنشن نقرا سؤاله الضيف. تفضل ابو صالح.
تسلم. بس عشان الاسئله بس موجوده عندنا، عشان يعني نتيح لاكبر قدر، لان الوقت محدود جدا. What are the most players that's been target for Saudi league, Ben Jacob?
There's a few. It's a good question. So long-standing targets, Casemiro, still a possibility for Al Nassr or Al Hilal, but they're waiting to see whether Casemiro is prepared to make the move. He's contracted at Manchester United until 2026. Aubameyang, another one being worked on by Al Shabab at the moment. So we wait and see whether they can get a breakthrough there. Lacazette was tried
just
for.
to be concentrated, just Casemiro to Al Nassr. It's very close to the Nassr. If he moved from Manchester United, Aubameyang to Al Shabab Saudi.
Yeah, so
What
Casemiro,
else?
Nassr, or Hilal, and then Aubameyang.
Is there any proposal for Al Hilal for Casemiro?
Not yet, no. But this is a central deal, so they're deciding if the player will come, and then they will allocate the club. This is how the big deals sometimes work. And we saw this with Nacho, where everybody said it was Ittihad, but it was never 100% Ittihad. It was just a central deal, and then Qadsiya were able to sign the player. So the club is sometimes decided very late in the process. But we have Casemiro, we have Aubameyang, and Al Shabab would like to sign him. Lacazette, who is expected to stay at Lyon, but there was a proposal made to him from Qadsiya. They were unsuccessful, though, unfortunately. Che Adams, who is a Scotland striker who is wanted by Al Shabab, but there are Premier League clubs, including his current club, Southampton, that are hoping to keep the player. We know about Mo Salah, but I suspect that's going to be 2025. I would keep an eye on Callum Wilson, the Newcastle United striker. He could still be sold to Saudi Arabia. There are several clubs who are interested in him. Miguel Almiron, another Newcastle player. Al Shabab tried to sign him in January, but the player didn't want to make the move. I'm told that Al Ittihad could be one to watch there, but no club has been allocated yet. All I'm sure on at the moment is it will not be Al Ittifaq, Steven Gerrard's club. There are some links with Almiron and Al Ittifaq, but I'm told that that is not the case, and they have started no negotiations at this point. And then Edison is the big name to watch as well. And there's a few Saudi Arabian clubs interested in him. Manchester City would look for more than 35 million English pounds. The player is open to the move. We might see Al Nassr make a play because Wojciech Szczesny hasn't happened so far. Al Ittihad are another club that are interested in him. So the player is prepared to go to Saudi Arabia, and Manchester City are just waiting for a proposal at this stage.
But is there any formal signing for Szczesny, the goalkeeper for the Nasser?
Well, at the moment, that's had complications. So the player was prepared to move, but the deal is not complete. And it looks like it's not going to be complete at this stage. So we're going to have to wait and see whether or not there's another Saudi club and whether or not the player maybe got a late option outside of Saudi Arabia. But 3 weeks ago, that deal looked done, and it still hasn't been completed at the moment. It's not 100% off, but it's no closer to being complete than it was 3 weeks ago.
Because they already started negotiating with Ederson, the goalkeeper for Manchester City.
That's
so
correct.
I don't think they will try to sign two goalkeepers.
Unlikely, but again, sometimes the club can change very late and they're aware of that. There's more than one Saudi club interested. So it looks like Szczesny's off and Edison is on. That is correct to my knowledge at this stage, but you still have to, one, agree the fee with Manchester City. And then number two, we have to wait and see what the central Ministry of Sport, Michael Emenalo, think. Because I was always told that the agreement for Kante was Nasser, and he went to Ittihad at the last minute. The agreement for Nacho was Ittihad. He went to Qadsiya at the last minute. So I always urge caution.
Wait. Let me cut you. Sorry, interrupt you, Mr. Ben. Again, Kante was going to where?
Kante originally was Nasser. People on the Nasser board thought it was done. And then at the last minute, they woke up and they were told, no, it's Ittihad. So the club can always change at the last minute, even when the club think it's done themselves, even when the president sometimes thinks they're going to be on a flight to do the handshakes, the ministry can change their mind. And it happened with Kante. It happened with Benzema, I was told as well. So we just have to be a bit cautious about the club with some of these big names. So Edison to Al Nassr,
same situation. Benzema
similar
is
situation. Except
he's
Benzema
going
was
to Al Nassr before.
Benzema, I think, was actually Hilal, believe it or not. And then Hilal decided that they were going to prioritize Neymar, and if they missed out on Neymar, they were going to go for Salah. So there's always a what we call in England domino effect. But anyway, it gets worked out because it's not just the clubs, it's central. So there's always unity in the end. But with Edison, I think Nasser are probably the more likely destination, but I wouldn't entirely rule out Ittihad as well.
اوكي
طيب هو قال حاجات كتير يا شباب، نترجم طيب الأول لو
تفضل يا هيثم.
اوكي. نقصد بس عشان الشباب اللي بيسمعونا. اوكي، هو انا كتبت اللي هو قاله يا شباب
انا
باختصار.
سجلت اللعيبه عشان ما انت عامل لهم
انا
فولو.
نفس لو انا سجلت اللعيبه اللي هو قالهم. لو انت جاهز دوس على طول.
والله ما في مشكله، خلينا نريحك المره هاي.
أوكي.
يعني شوفوا جماعه الخير، والاسماء اللي ذكرها بشكل عام انه كازيميرو حاليا يفكر يعني تفكيره بالانتقال بشكل عام ما بين النصر والهلال، لكن اللاعب غير متاكد من، يعني ما اتخذ قراره بشكل كبير. حاليا في اهتمام من نادي الشباب السعودي بمهاجم نادي مارسيليا اوباميانغ الجابوني، وحاليا لاكازيت تمام مرتاح في نادي ليون، لكن في اهتمام من القادسيه تمام، لكن لم يحالفهم الحظ باخر اجراءات اتخذوه مع اللاعب من
بس
العرب.
حاتم انا ما اعتقد القادسيه، لانه ترى اوريدي موقع عقد ترى مع اعتقد فنزويلي، مهاجم فنزويلي، فما اعتقد يعني ممكن
لكن هذا اللي حكاه في وقت سابق اخوي.
نعم
اللي حكاه
صحيح.
في وقت سابق، لكن انا يعني بترجم كل الكلام اللي حكاه بالنسبه للاعبين تمام. في عندك شيء ادمز المهاجم الاسكتلندي لنادي ساوثهامبتون اللي كان في الشامبيونشيب الموسم الماضي، وحاليا طلعوا على نادي على البريمير ليج. في اهتمام من نادي الشباب وفي اهتمام من عده انديه في البريمير ليج، فممكن هذا يكون عائق للصفقه. في عندك محمد صلاح اللي وضعه العام بالنسبة للصفقة احتمالية انتقال في 2025 ولكن ليس في الموسم الحالي، لأنه ما في أخبار تدل على الموسم الحالي. في عندك مهاجم الإنجليزي كالم ويلسون مهاجم نادي نيوكاسل الاحتياطي. في عدة أندية سعودية مهتمة في اللاعب، لاعب جيد للأمانة. في عندك الميرون الجناح الأيمن الباراغواياني جناح نادي نيوكاسل، في اهتمام من نادي الشباب حاليا، وفي اهتمام بشكل سابق من نادي الاتحاد، وبشكل سابق وبشكل قديم من نادي الاتفاق، لكن يعني غير معروف حاليا وجهة اللاعب أو إذا تم اتفاقه مع نادي بشكل شخصي. في عندك كمان أنت صفقة إدرسون للنصر. صفقة إدرسون للنصر حاليا ب 35 مليون باوند من نادي مانشستر سيتي طالب. هو الأقرب حاليا للانتقال إلى النصر من صفقة تشيزني اللي للأمانة توقفت، تمام، لأنه زي على ما يقول بن جيكوبس إنه اللاعب أو الصفقة بشكل عام بردت حاليا، ولكن الاهتمام الأكبر من نادي النصر في إدرسون الحارس البرازيلي لنادي مانشستر يونايتد، تمام. لكن الوضع العام للصفقات للآن خصوصا صفقة إدرسون تتخذ بروية، تمام. وفي عندك آخر كلام حكاه للأمانة وكان يتناقشوا فيه الشباب في موضوع اللاعبين ما قبل كأس العالم ما بعد كأس العالم، بداية قبل ما يجوا عنديتهم. يعني يقول لك كانتي كان في كلام انه كان راح يجي النصر مش الاتحاد، وكان في كلام انه بنزيما كان بروح الهلال وليس الاتحاد. فكل هاي الامور خصوصا صفقات اللاعبين الكبار اللاعبين السوبر تتغير في اخر الثواني او في اخر الايام.
صحيح، وأنا أتوقع أن تشيزني راح يتجه لمونزا الإيطالي، نادي مونزا الإيطالي، وسيتعاقد النصر حسب يعني تحليلي للمشهد وليست معلومة مع إدرسون.
صحيح، نادي مونزا الإيطالي فقط حارسه ميكيلي دي غريغوريو أفضل حارس في الدوري لنادي اليوفي، وممكن أبو عزوز
ممكن جدا. طيب Mr. Ben Jacob, I need to ask you about Al Ahly. There is a lot of fans here wrote me a lot of question about their clubs. They want to know if there is any good players is coming like Kimmich or any superstars or any other players coming from the other Europe League to their club.
Yes, good question. Hello to all of the Al Ahly fans. I think Al Ahly are going to be very busy. Romelu Lukaku is one name to watch. Chelsea would like £38 million. Al Hilal 12 months ago had an offer accepted for Lukaku, but they are not currently working on him. It's Al Ahly who are interested in that particular player. The other name, Al Ahly, but maybe one of the other PIF clubs is still Victor Osimhen. And at the moment, I'm told that Saudi Arabia centrally, with maybe Al Ahly in mind, but it could be one of the other PIF clubs, and also PSG. These are the major players at the moment who are actively considering Victor Osimhen. And he has a release clause of about 120 million euros. He has wages by European standards of £250,000 a week. If he came to Saudi Arabia, the money would be closer, I would imagine, to €1 million a week. So it would be a very big contract. And we wait and see now whether Saudi go to Napoli and express a desire to trigger the clause. But 12 months ago, Victor Osimhen had 3 offers, all from Al Hilal, and he was very close to joining.
Good. هيثم راح أعطيك الفرصة أنك تترجم بعدين راح أسأل سؤال ثاني. تفضل.
اوكي طيب هو كان بيتكلم ان الاهلي مهتم بروميلو لوكاكو وان تشيلسي طلب 30 مليون باوند. الهلال كان مهتم قبل كده ولكن الان مفيش اهتمام من الهلال بلوكاكو. في برضه فيكتور اوسايمون ده موجود في قائمة الاهتمام بتاع الاهلي. اللاعب بيمتلك شرط جزائي او قيمة مطلوبة كبيرة شوية، كذلك الراتب بتاعه كبير. ده كان كل شيء بالنسبة للاهتمامات سواء روميلو لوكاكو او فيكتور اوسايمون.
تمام. أتوقع أنا أوسيمين حسب الأخبار الأخيرة هي يعني خفضوا عقد الشرط الجزائي من 120 أعتقد ل 90 أو بحدود 100 حاليا.
أبو عزوز الشرط
تفضل.
الجزائي، من أنا متتبع اللاعب بشكل كبير، كان مطلوب ب 103 مليون باوند بمقارب 127 مليون يورو. نابولي خفض قيمة عقد اللاعب كطلب وليس كشرط جزائي ل 84.6 مليون باوند بما يقارب ل 100 مليون يورو.
صحيح. طيب Mr. Jacob, there is a lot of fans from الشباب. They wrote to me down to the space mention. They asking about their club. If there is any players coming to their club.
Yeah, Al Shabab's top priority is a striker rather than a winger. So as I said before, in January they had an agreement with Newcastle for Miguel Almiron for 30 million euros, but the player didn't want to go. Now Almiron is available again, but Al Shabab are not working on him. They have other priorities. And Al Shabab's top priority at the moment is striker. So they are looking at Aubameyang and Che Adams. They are waiting to hear whether Che Adams wants to go to Saudi Arabia. He has the option of staying at Southampton, and he has had offers from Nottingham Forest and Wolverhampton Wanderers. And then Aubameyang, the feeling is that Marseille are prepared to let Aubameyang go. So it's just about agreeing terms with the player. But the big priority for Al Shabab is a striker.
اوكي
تمام
حاتم
ابو عزوز. بن جيكوبس يعني كان يقول يا اخوان حاليا نادي الشباب كان مهتم بشكل سابق بالميرون الجناح الايمن الباراغواياني لنادي نيوكاسل، لكن خفف من الاهتمام بشكل سابق. هم قدموا مبلغ 30 مليون يورو لكن اللاعب رفض. لكن حاليا نادي الشباب مهتم بمهاجم راس حربة، وحاليا اهتماماتهم بين او خياراتهم بين لاعبين: شي ادمز مهاجم نادي ساوثهامبتون الاسكتلندي، او مهاجم نادي مارسيليا اوباميانج. شي ادمز مرتبط حاليا او مقدم لعروض من نادي وولفرهامبتون الانجليزي ونادي نوتنغهام فورست الانجليزي. فللامانه اللاعب قاعد يقيم العروض بشكل عام وما في شيء واضح للان من ناحيه الهاي، لكن هي اهتمامات واختيارات بالنسبه لنادي الشباب موجوده على الورق.
برضو حاتم يعني عشان بس اضيف وكلامك نعم صحيح على بالنسبه لكلام بن جيكوب. الشباب عنده مهاجم اعتقد ديالو مهاجم موجود الان اللي جاء حتى عرض
ستراسبورغ. صحيح
اي نعم يعني اعتقد حتى جاء عرض في الفتره الشتويه، جاء عرض ورفض التخلي عنها الشباب. فهو ايضا يعني انا عشان اجيب مهاجم صعب اني بجيب اثنين سترايكر. عندي انا بالنسبه لي انا كمهاجمين احتاج اني اقل شيء اني اصرف هذا سواء اعاره او سواء عرض اللاعب. فاتوقع ممكن يتصرف اللاعب هذا قبل سووا نعم ذكر اوباميانج واللاعب الثاني له ادمز. طيب تفضل بس ما ادري والله اذا في احد عنده سؤال من الشباب.
انا ابو صالح عندي سؤال. Mr. Ben Jacob, there is a question here in private message from member القادسية. They ask about his club القادسية, if there is any more players is coming in the future other than Nachos and those players.
Yes, very exciting times for Al Qadsiya. We know that Aramco are very ambitious, and I am told that they are looking for a minimum of 4 big foreign signings still. And of course, the quota allows for even more. And at the moment, I am told that they are looking in a few different areas. They want centre back, they want a playmaker, they want a wide player, and still they want a traditional striker. And this is in addition to the very exciting arrival of Nacho. So there are a few players that I am aware of that are being targeted. Number one is actually in the domestic market. And Al Qadsiya are considering whether to rival Al Ittifaq, who obviously they're only 5-10 kilometers apart from, for Seko Fofana. And there is a possibility for Al Qadsiya because Al Ittifaq can only pay if it is a loan deal around 30% of Seko Fofana's wages. And Al Qadsiya may make a more appealing offer to Al Nassr in order to take the player. The other name in the domestic market that Al Qadsiya like is Fashion Sakala, who did very well at Al Fire last season after joining from Rangers in Scotland. And this
Also,
is another target.
is considered one of the most successful players in Saudi League. Also, Sakala.
Correct. And this is also somebody that Ittifaq will try and sign if Damari Gray departs. So those are the two domestic targets that Qadsiya may chase. And then another big name, which is one to watch, is I am told Qadsiya may try a very, very ambitious move for Ivan Toney, who is at Brentford. So keep an eye on that one as well.
Just to let you know, just to be Jacob, before there was top 4 clubs. Now in Saudi League, there is top 5. You know, Qadsiya will be one of the most successful teams in our clubs in Saudi League.
Yes, I think this is true.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's very true.
I have a question, Mr. Ben. There is a Al-Hilal fan asking about Rafinha, Barcelona player, and Mohamed Kudus also, West Ham player. And if he is coming, if those players come into Al-Hilal, and if you have more information about the left back, Ludi, the Brazilian player, if he will be leaving the club, also Michel, the right wing in Al-Hilal. So yeah, that's a question come from the mention.
Yes, good questions. I don't have much information about Michel leaving at this stage, but I will keep you posted. I think what's interesting is that last summer, many of the clubs filled up their foreign player quotas. And even though now there are 10 spots, not 8, 2 of the players need to be 21 or under. So we will need some outgoings if there is to be the same volume of foreign signings. 12 months ago, it was 94 foreigners joined. I think now there won't be more than 40 foreigners joining because there's a lot of foreigners already taking up the spots. So if teams want to sign big, they might have to let some of their foreigners go. So there's decisions to be made. Jota, of course, at Al Ittihad is another one, and there is still some interest from Premier League clubs. So we wait and see whether he departs or whether he is actually loaned to a club within Saudi Arabia. With Kudus, there is a release clause, but from West Ham's point of view, they don't want to lose the player. I think if he was to leave, it's more likely that we might see a move from Liverpool as opposed to Saudi Arabia. With Rafinha, he's a big target, and Saudi Arabia would love to sign Rafinha. And Barcelona may love to do a deal because we know that they need to bring in money. Barcelona want to sign Nico Williams, who has been outstanding at Euro 2024 for Spain. But to do that, they need a big outgoing. So there's an opportunity here for Saudi Arabia to do a deal with Barcelona. That's not the problem. The problem is Rafinha. Rafinha is still in love with Barcelona. So the player needs some persuading. But Barcelona are prepared to sell Rafinha. It's just about getting the green light from the player.
Yes, I agree. Also,
هيثم؟
I think هيثم تفضل.
اوكي في حاجتين. اول حاجه اللي هو القادسيه، كان بيتكلم ان في 4 تعاقدات كبيره على الاقل. الاولويات بالنسبه للقادسيه مدافع وصانع لعب ولاعب يلعب على الطرف، وكذلك مهاجم تقليدي. في بعض اللاعبين القادسيه مهتم بيهم من الفرق المحليه زي سيكو فوفانا لاعب الاتفاق وسوكالا. في اسم كبير كمان القادسيه مهتم بيه وهو ايفان توني. كذلك كان في عن رافينيا ومحمد قدوس وارتباطهم بالهلال، وكذلك مغادرة لودي. هو الإجابة كانت إن في عدد لعيبة كبير أجانب في الدوري، وفي بعض الأحيان محتاجين بيع بعض اللاعبين الأجانب عشان يكون في قدرة على استقطاب لاعبين آخرين. محمد قدوس وست هام مش عايزة تبيع اللاعب، وكذلك ليه بعض الاهتمام من بعض الفرق الكبيرة، فبالتالي صفقة صعبة شوية في الوقت الحالي. رافينيا برشلونة هيكون حابب جدا إن هو يبيع اللاعب عشان عندهم اهتمام بنيكو ويليامز، فهم حابين يبيعوا رافينيا عشان يقدروا يجيبوا نيك ويليامز، ولكن برشلونة بحاجة لرقم كبير وعرض كبير يتعرض عليه. كذلك رافينيا هو المشكلة مش برشلونة، يعني موضوع الاتفاق مع برشلونة مش هيكون صعب، لكن رافينيا هو المشكلة لأن هو بيحب بارسا وحابب إن هو ينجح مع البارسا. ده كل شيء.
تمام. There is some rumors, Mr. Ben. Today I read a lot of rumors about Lucas Paqueta is coming to Al Ittihad. Also, there is any players coming to Al Hilal under 2003. They were born 2003. You know, there is a new rules here in Saudi Pro Leagues. You know about it. You told me before the others.
Yes, correct. So the new rules mean 2 of the spots can be 21 or under, and then you can have 10 foreigners. So first of all, with Lucas Paqueta, we need to be very clear that West Ham do not want to sell or loan. And at the moment, the player is not suspended. He is under investigation for breaches of gambling rules, but he can play. So he's at the Copa America. And as long as he can play, West Ham want to keep him. If he is suspended, the suspension is going to be very problematic. And I do not expect Saudi Arabia to try anything with Paqueta. The club that wants Paqueta is Flamengo, his boyhood club. And they have made a proposal to West Ham to loan the player whilst this investigation in England is ongoing. And West Ham are not prepared to do that. But Paqueta would be happy to go back to Brazil. So his preference is Brazil, not Saudi Arabia, or to stay at West Ham. So I don't think that that deal is going to happen. With the young players, interestingly, I'm told that it's not only permanent signings. Clubs are interested in loaning really top talents because they feel that if they loan a very exciting young player and they give them the minutes, the fans of the club that they loan from will start watching the Saudi Pro League. So some young players could be bought, like Gabri Vega is a good example, but some young players could just be loaned for one season. And then maybe if these players play for big clubs in Europe, the fans of those clubs will watch the Saudi Pro League. So I have heard that Al Hilal are interested in loaning, not signing, only loaning Ben Doak, who is a very exciting player at Liverpool, who unfortunately had some injury problems, and he's only 18. And Saudi clubs are looking at these kind of players to have for one season because then they think the Liverpool fans or the Manchester United fans or the Barcelona fans will see these young players play and they'll want to watch the Saudi Pro League because they know that those players are still coming back to their clubs after.
Good. حاتم أو أبو صالح أو هيثم.
كابتن هيثم موجود؟
تمام، أوكي. هو كان يتكلم عن باكيتا والاتحاد وكمان قواعد اللاعبين صغار
شوف
السن.
بحكي باكيتا بعد هيك ما اخذت النقاط.
أوكي،
بترجم باكيتا. هو يا اخوان كان بيحكي على باكيتا انه باكيتا للامانه وضعه العام في الدوري ولسه قاعدين يستنوا قرار الاتحاد الانجليزي بموضوع المراهنات، سواء اذا اوقفوا اللاعب او لا. اذا ما اوقفوا اللاعب فهو خيار موجود لنادي وست هام، لكن اذا اوقفوا اللاعب اتجاهه الاكبر واهتمامه بالانتقال الى ناديه الام، نادي فلامينغو البرازيلي. تمام، ولا شيء يعني يغني اللاعب عن الانتقال لهذا النادي لانه هو خياره الاول في الوقت الحالي، وكل الاخبار حاليا موجوده هي مرتبطه بانتقال لاعب نادي فلامينغو في حال تم اتخاذ اجراء من الاتحاد الانجليزي بخصوص اللاعب. تفضل كابتن هيثم.
اوكي حبيبي، هو برضو اتكلم عن اللاعبين صغار السن ان في اتجاه دلوقتي ل بعض اللعيبه مثلا زي الشباب اللي موجودين في انديه ليها قاعده جماهيريه كبيره زي ليفربول او يونايتد، عشان اللعيبه دي لو راحت الدوري السعودي لعيبه صغيره ما عندهاش مساحه ان هي تاخد دقائق لعب كبيره مع الانديه الكبيره بتاعتها، لكن لما يروحوا للأندية السعودية هيلعبوا دقايق لعب أكبر وهيقدروا إن هم يتطوروا أكتر، فبالتالي جماهير الفرق دي ليفربول أو يونايتد أو الفرق الكبيرة اللي زي الفرق دي هيتابعوا الدوري السعودي أكتر، وده شيء مهم جدا بالنسبة للإدارة في الرياضة السعودية.
Yes, Ben Jacob, I have three names, or let's say it's like big names. First of all, I would ask you about talking about Ben Nasser today. We read something about that, and also about Marquinhos from Paris. The last one, Theo Hernandez from Milan. There is a lot of talk about them. If there is possible, there is coming in the future here.
Who was the first name, apologies, that you spoke of?
First one,
Ben Nasser.
Ben Nasser, yes.
Ismail Ben Nasser.
From Milan, yeah.
So let's start with Theo Hernandez. And I think the links are natural because Pioli has obviously just joined Etihad, and therefore people are jumping to certain conclusions. But Milan think Theo Hernandez is going to stay. That's the plan. He's a regular starter. They don't want to sell. So it's going to be extremely difficult, maybe even impossible, for Saudi Arabia to get Theo Hernandez. Zlatan Ibrahimovic has said that the player is not for sale. So that one is very tough to pull off for Saudi Arabia. We've seen some links with Manchester City as well, but Milan's plan is to keep Theo Hernandez. Marquinhos is a little bit different. PSG would be prepared to sell, and we know that Al Hilal did business with PSG for Neymar. And I am told that Al Ittihad are actively trying to sign Marquinhos for this summer. It's not advanced at this moment, but PSG are aware of the interest. But their preference is to also keep their captain. Marquinhos is 30. For a big offer, they might sell. But again, their preference is to try and keep the player because he is their captain. And they feel that he has a role to play still. So these two are a little bit harder to facilitate. And then the links with Ben Nasser are legitimate, from what I am told. And I think that last year, the expectation was that Al Hilal would be the club that move. This time around, it is more likely to be either Al Ittihad, Al Shabab, or Al Qadsiya. These are the three clubs that have expressed an interest. And Milan are happy for Saudi clubs to talk to the player, even though he is contracted until 2027. So an important fee would be needed in order to facilitate this one. But with Hernandez, Milan say no, not for sale. Whereas with this deal, they are more open to a negotiation. So they will allow the player to speak to Saudi clubs in order to see whether a move is possible.
Well, what's the point if they say if they allow to player to talk with Saudi clubs, and at the end they said the player is not for sale? What's the point?
Well, they don't allow them to speak to the player unless they are open. So I think there's a chance with one of those names, but with Theo Hernandez, they don't want him to speak to Saudi clubs. It's not for sale. So you have to respect the club's position, and Milan are less likely to engage in a negotiation. You can never say never, because maybe Saudi Arabia offer something important and the player tries to force the move. We saw this with Mitrovic. Fulham said no, Fulham said no a second time. Fulham said no a third time. And Mitrovic basically said, I'm not going to play for Fulham.
Eventually, they already sold
Eventually, but
yeah,
Milan
eventually.
are in no mood to sell Theo Hernandez. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic has said that privately and publicly. Whereas I think that with Ben Nasser, it's a bit different. Milan will be prepared to sell. So Saudi Arabia have some encouragement. And with Marquinhos, PSG's position is that they would rather not sell, but if the offer is big enough, they may change their mind. So we have three different situations where Ben Nasser, it's possible. With Marquinhos, it could happen, but the offer has to be high. And with Theo Hernandez, the offer has to be crazy. Otherwise, Milan are not going to consider it.
طيب هيثم ولا حاتم؟
انا اترجم. سجلت النقاط بشكل عام. شوفوا يا جماعه الخير، الشباب سالوه عن انتقالات 3 لاعبين للدوري السعودي. ببلش لكم لاعب بدايه من بن ناصر، لاعب الوسط الدفاعي الجزائري، لاعب نادي اي سي ميلان الايطالي. بن ناصر في ارتباطات في العام الماضي كانت مع نادي الهلال، ارتباطات للانتقال، لكن ما حصلت الصفقه. لكن حاليا في الموسم الحالي في الميركاتو الحالي في اهتمام من 3 أندية، من نادي الاتحاد السعودي ونادي الشباب ونادي القادسية وميلان. نادي اي سي ميلان سعيد تمام لاتصال هذه الأندية مع بن ناصر لرغبتهم بخروج اللاعب. نيجي للاعب الثاني ثيو هرنانديز على نفس النادي، نادي ميلان الإيطالي. ثيو هرنانديز هو الظهير الأيسر الفرنسي وأحد أقوى الأظهر على مستوى العالم. نادي ميلان يشوف هذا اللاعب حجر أساس في الفريق، وهو لاعب أساسي ومن أهم لاعبين الفريق، ولهم لا يرغبون في بيعه في أي قيمة إلا إذا كانت القيمة جنونية. وإبراهيموفيتش صرح قبل فترة إنه اللاعب هذا لا يمس في ميلان. نيجي على اللاعب الثالث ماركينيوس، قلب الدفاع البرازيلي لنادي باريس سان جيرمان. ماركينيوس هو قائد نادي باريس سان جيرمان، وهو أحد أهم لاعبين نادي باريس سان جيرمان الحالي. ولن يهتم نادي باريس سان جيرمان بخروج اللاعب وخروج قائد الفريق إلا بعقد كبير برقم كبير. وذكر نقطة إنه في بعض اللاعبين لا يتركون الأندية السعودية أنها تتواصل معهم بسبب أهمية هؤلاء اللاعبين للفريق، تمام، وهم لا يريدون خسارتهم لأي أندية ثانية مثل ثيو هرنانديز وماركينيوس.
تمام.
ابو عزوز قبل شوي انا شفت اخبار قبل شوي
وشو؟
عن برونو فرنانديز، يقول توصل فريق قبل شوي طلعت اخبار يقول برونو فرنانديز يقول في يعني ممكن يلعب في الدوري السعودي، لكن انا ما نعرف وش اي فريق. Any news about Bruno Fernandes, the Portuguese player?
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes is expected to stay at Manchester United. The agent of Bruno Fernandes has held many talks, including with Saudi Arabia, the central deal makers.
But some rumors that said that the player is very close to Saudi league.
That's not my understanding. My understanding is that it is still more likely that Bruno Fernandes stays at Manchester United for this season. I think 2025, perhaps. This is patient recruitment, same with Salah. So Saudi are not going to give up on Bruno Fernandes. He's a big target. And because Ronaldo has brought in a lot of global fans, but also Portuguese fans, those that are running the Pro League think it's important to have another Portuguese star because Ronaldo is not going to be around forever. My understanding is Ronaldo may renew 1 extra year and then play in the 2026 World Cup. So his contract expires 2025, but he may extend until 2026 and then play the 2026 World Cup and potentially retire. But the television rights for international broadcasters renew in 2025. So the next cycle for the international television rights is 2025. And by then, the central deal makers want a big Portuguese star because they have a big audience in Portugal and they can sell again and they can make money off Portugal for international television rights. But they want another star. So this is why Bruno Fernandes is a big priority. And it is true that Bruno Fernandes has spoken via his agent to many clubs, including Saudi Arabia. But the expectation is that he will not leave Manchester United this summer, but there is a possibility that it may happen in 2025. And something very surprising and very expensive would have to happen from Saudi Arabia's point of view to change that in the next 2 months.
شوفوا يا جماعة الخير، هو كان واضح بموضوع انه الدوري السعودي وصفقة كريستيانو رونالدو لنادي النصر كان لها تأثير كبير على الدوري السعودي بشكل عام، خصوصا في وضع بث الدوري السعودي في البرتغال وكيف كان كريستيانو رونالدو مؤثر على ذلك. فهم يعني الوضع العام لاهتمام المختصين والقائمين على الدوري السعودي انه وضع الدوري السعودي في البرتغال، سواء اذا خلص عقد رونالدو الموسم القادم او ما جدد او شو ما كان وضع رونالدو الموسم القادم، هم محتاجين لاعب ثاني برتغالي قيمته عاليه اللي ظل مؤثر على نسبه وجود الدوري السعودي في القنوات البرتغاليه بشكل عام.
تمام. Mr. Ben, there is 3 names. We will get back to Al Ahly if I got 3 names. First of all, Saint Maximin, is he leaving Al Ahly to I think he got from another Turkish club, and the other name is Leslie Okochoko. He's a player from Chelsea. I don't know the name exactly. Is he coming to Al Ahly? And also the third name, Paredes, the Argentinian player. Is he coming to Al Ahly also?
Yeah, you got the pronunciation perfect. So well done. Leslie Okochukwu is still seen as part of Chelsea's plans. So they're not looking to sell, but they might be looking to loan. So that could be a possibility, but it is unlikely that that will be a permanent deal at this stage because he's a young player and Chelsea want to give him a little bit more time. With St. Maximin, he does have options away from Saudi Arabia, but I'm told he's enjoying his time at Al Ahly, so there are no guarantees that he will leave. The player is still deciding. With Leandro Paredes, he was very impressive for Roma, but I am told that he is tempted by a move to Al Ahly and has received a very important offer. So this one could be one to watch in the next 2 weeks because the player hasn't yet given his final decision. But I am told that he was given a very appealing offer to move to Saudi Arabia. Roma would not like to lose him, but the player has not given his final decision yet.
Great.
شوف يا جماعة، خلنا نترجم على السريع. It's painful to speak about Chelsea players, man. But للأمانة يا جماعة الخير كان يتحدث على موضوع ليزلي أوجوتشوا، المحور الدفاعي الفرنسي لنادي تشيلسي الإنجليزي. يحكي إنه اللاعب هذا للأمانة يعني له وضعه الخاص في نادي تشيلسي، لأنه اللاعب ما أخذ دقائق كافية الموسم الماضي، وهم شايفينه من ضمن المشروع للموسم القادم بانتقاله للنادي الأهلي السعودي. في أخبار، لكن الوضع العام للصفقة صعب. عندك اللاعب الثاني باريدس للأمانة يعني اللاعب في اهتمام من قبل أندية الدوري السعودي، لكن روما مش حاب يخسر اللاعب، تمام. واللاعب الثالث سانت ماكسيما وضعه مع نادي الأهلي الوضع العام إنه اللاعب مرتاح وأموره جيدة وهو مستمتع في وجوده في الدوري السعودي، لكن في اهتمام من أندية أخرى، لكن الأمور بالنسبة للاعب غير واضحة إلى الآن.
تمام.
بالنسبة لانتقال اللاعب، تفضل أبو عزوز.
لا تفضل كمل، في شيء بعد؟
لا تمام، لا بس هاي النقطة.
تمام. بالنسبة Mr. Ben, I have question about Leao. Is he coming to Al Hilal?
Who is the player? My apologies.
The Portuguese from Milan, Leao.
Rafael Leao.
Difficult, I think, although it wouldn't surprise me if somebody tries. There's a big release clause, and the player has always said that he's very happy at Milan and they won't want to lose him. But the ambition of the Saudi Pro League at the Ministry of Sport level is to try for players like Leao. So it would not surprise me at all especially if De Bruyne doesn't come this window, Fernandes doesn't come this window, Salah doesn't come this window. They need what we call in England a box office signing. So don't be surprised if Saudi Arabia tries, but I'm told that one is difficult.
So who's supposed to be the top players that's gonna come to Saudi League? If it's Mo Salah, no. Kevin De Bruyne,
Not in
no.
2024. De Bruyne, there's a question mark. We wait and see. It's not out of the question, but I think that it could be 2025 Al Hilal rather than 2024. But let's see, because they may make an important offer and it may be too good for Manchester City to turn down. You just never know. So De Bruyne is still an active target. That's one thing we should say. Whereas I think they've given up on Mo Salah 2024. I think Salah is 2025. I think Casemiro remains one to watch. Like I said earlier, I think Aubameyang is another one. But let's just make one thing very clear, that 12 months ago, they were looking for 20 very important signings that had all played in the Champions League or won things. And then obviously the other names that come, they're very good footballers, but they're not all Champions League winners. They're not all globally renowned names. So these are people like Vega or Damari Gray, excellent footballers, but they're not Champions League winners, World Cup winners, whatever. Whereas your De Bruyne's, your Salah's fall into that category. Now we're not looking at 20 in that category. We're only looking at 6 or 7 because the quotas are full. So people like Benzema, Neymar, Ronaldo, they're there. So they don't need 20 elite names. They're looking for between 6 and 10. So Nacho is one of them. Casemiro might be one of them. De Bruyne might be one of them. And therefore, the splash that Saudi Arabia make may not be quite as big because a lot of the top names that they signed 12 months ago are still there.
So that means it's not gonna be the same last summer window, right?
Yeah, because last summer they signed 94 players. You can't sign 94 players because a lot of the quotas are full. So Al Qadsiya can sign 6, 7, 8 because they're newly promoted. But Al Hilal are not expected to get rid of Mitrovic or Neves or Serge Milinkovic Savic or Neymar. Neymar's barely played because he's obviously been injured. So if you're Al Hilal and you keep those players, you've got a maximum of 6, and even then you'd have to get rid of players.
I think just this is just for Al Hilal, but other clubs, no, they like to change their players. They like to change 3, 4, 5 players. Just I think Al Hilal, it's not gonna more than 2 players.
This
So
is true. But I
yeah,
think, again,
that's right.
if you look at the Saudi Pro League at the moment, you're talking about 4 big PIF clubs and Al Qadsiya. And then I think we have to respect Al Shabab and Al Ittifaq as well. But Al Ittifaq do not have a big budget unless they get central funds. So you have 18 teams in the Saudi Pro League. And if they all fill their quotas, it's 180 foreign names that are allowed. But 96 names were already in the Saudi Pro League. So if those names are to stay in the Saudi Pro League, plus the other foreigners that existed before they arrived, there's just not that much space. So I think the number of total foreigners that will arrive to Saudi Arabia is between 35 and maximum 50. And then of those 35 to 50, they would be looking for 10 tier 1 or elite names, and the other 30 or 40 will be very good players, maybe from Europe's top 5 leagues, maybe from South America, but they won't all be World Cup winners or Champions League winners. And this is a good thing because you don't only want established players that are 30, you want younger players that haven't yet won everything and are going to be at their peak when they're still at Saudi Arabia. And this is the reality. But you also want to be able to keep, ideally, Benzema. Maybe it's difficult. We know the player isn't entirely settled. They want to keep N'Golo Kante. They want to keep players like Mitrovic and Neymar. They want Ronaldo to obviously stay, and not just stay, but extend. They still want to keep Gabri Vega. The idea is ideally for players that haven't been at their best, like Bobby Firmino and Jota, to stay within Saudi Arabia. So maybe they leave their club, but maybe they're loaned somewhere else. So Saudi try and find a solution for the foreigners. And the other really important point to remember is for many of the players, especially players from Europe, if it's to be tax-free for them, they have to stay for more than 1 year. So a lot of the players, even if they wish to leave Saudi Arabia or the clubs wish for them to leave, will not leave, because if they don't stay for that second year, if they joined last year, then they will no longer be eligible in many cases for it to be tax-free. So that will mean a lot of players, even if the clubs want them to leave, will say, no, we want to honour our contract and we want to stay for at least 1 more year and then leave in 2025, because that's more lucrative for them. Otherwise, it will not be tax-free. And Jordan Henderson found this was a problem when he left Al Ittifaq early. The package was no longer tax-free. So he actually ended up losing money rather than gaining money by leaving Saudi Arabia early.
كابتن هيثم.
تمام، اوكي. الكلام كان على كذا حاجة، منها ان ماكسمان هل هيغادر الاهلي ويروح لتركيا، وكذلك ليزلي اوبوتشوكو وباريدس. تقريبا تكلمت عن ده. هو بيتكلم برضو عن لياو اسم كبير، وزارة الرياضة السعودية مهتمة جدا بيه عشان في صفقات زي صلاح ودي بروين وفرنانديز، يعني كان في اهتمام بيهم ومفيش صفقة تم إنجازها. كذلك الإدارة السعودية في الرياضة دلوقتي مهتمين جدا بلعيبة تكون كسبت تشامبيونز ليج قبل كده أو كأس العالم، مش مجرد لعيبة جيدة زي فيجا مثلا اللاعب الأسباني أو ماكسيمم. دي بروين لسه لازال علامة استفهام، يعني مفيش أي شيء مقرر بعد. السيتي لو في عرض كويس يعني متوقع ان الامور تتحرك شويه. صلاح متوقع اكتر في 2025، يعني بعد سنه من دلوقتي. كاسيميرو خيار محتمل جدا، وكذلك اوباميانج، ولكن برضو لسه ما فيش شيء ملموس ونهائي. في اهتمام قوي هيكون قادم باسماء كبيره جدا. الاسماء دي زي ما ذكرت من شويه هتكون اسماء فازت بالتشامبيونز ليج او بكاس العالم. في اهتمام كبير جدا ان يكون في ما يقارب 10 اسماء كبيره، يعني الاتجاه للتعاقد مع ما يقارب من 35 ل 50 لاعب، ولكن منهم 10 اسماء يكونوا اسماء كبيره واسماء فازت ببطولات كبيره قبل كده. الهلال عنده عدد كبير من الصفقات بالفعل تم إنجازها من قبل، فبالتالي مش متوقع إن هو يتم التعاقد مع عدد كبير من الصفقات. القادسية متوقع يكون ليه نصيب كبير في عدد الصفقات. في 4 أندية كبيرة زائد القادسية والاتفاق والشباب، كل الأندية ديت منتظر يتم ليها بعض التعاقدات. في مشكلة متعلقة باللاعبين الأجانب، يعني تم التعاقد مع 96 لاعب أجنبي. الرقم ده كبير جدا، هم محتاجين يبيعوا بعض اللاعبين عشان يقدروا يستقطبوا لاعبين آخرين، ولكن المشكلة إن في بعض اللاعبين أمضوا موسم واحد بس في الدوري السعودي، ودي مشكلة عشان مش هيبقوا عندهم بعض المشاكل فيما يتعلق بالضرائب، فمحتاجين على الأقل إن هم يلعبوا موسمين. فبالتالي هيكون في حالة رفض للبيع مثلا، عشان اللعيب هيخسر ماليا بشكل كبير. فدي تحديات لسه الإدارة السعودية بتحاول إن هي تتعامل فيها عشان يجدوا حلول ويقدروا يتعاقدوا مع عدد أكبر من اللاعبين. ده كل شيء.
تمام يا هيثم.
شكرا يا كابتن.
شكرا يا
تفضل
حبيبي.
عزوز، تفضل.
Mr. Ben, I have a very interesting question about 3 players, because it's the same position. If they come and will play, there is any relate transfer between Davies from Bayern Munich and Ferland Mendy from Real Madrid? If that happen, if Davies coming to Real Madrid, definitely I think Mendy is leaving. Another question, there is 3 clubs, Saudi clubs, interested about Ricardo, forgot his name, Rodriguez, yes, the Switzerland national team. The left back of Switzerland team. There is 3 clubs from Saudi interested about him.
Yeah, this is true. There is interest in Ricardo Rodriguez. This will be one to watch. And he's 31 now and is open to the move to Saudi Arabia. He has been playing in Italy for Torino for quite some time, and there is an opportunity here. And I am told that one of those 3 clubs, I'm not so sure if anything is final yet, but one of the clubs that has expressed an interest is Al Fatah who we haven't spoken about yet, and he is a target for Al Fatah, but there is more than one Saudi club available. And then with Alphonso Davies, the plan is to be very patient from Real Madrid. They're not going to pay crazy money for Alphonso Davies because they believe the player wants to join. So they'll either get him now or they'll wait, and then they'll get him in 2025. So we need to wait and see whether the transfer of Alphonso Davies, who wants to join Real Madrid, is possible now, or whether he waits until 2025. And as you rightly say, there could have an impact if Davies arrives on Mendy, and that may open the door for him to leave. But what I would say is that at the moment, instead of Alphonso Davies, Real Madrid are talking about extending Mendy. So this is very important to mention, that it's not a given that just because Davies comes now or in a year's time, that means that Mendy leaves. From Real Madrid's point of view, Mendy has big backing, huge support from Carlo Ancelotti. So there are positive talks at the moment going on between Real Madrid and Mendy to extend. So it is not definite that Mendy becomes available now. Whether Davies arrives or whether he doesn't arrive, there is a distinct possibility that Mendy actually agrees a new contract at Real Madrid. So, of course, the Saudi deal makers are alert because they want to see what happens. But they've not made a move for Mendy yet. They're waiting to see how things fall. And again, much like we've said with some other targets, they may have to be patient. Because as long as Carlo Ancelotti is at Real Madrid, he wants still to have Mendy at Real Madrid as well. But remember, Ancelotti may leave in 2025 or 2026, and Xabi Alonso may become the next manager of Real Madrid, and then things may change very quickly. But as of now, Saudi are not talking to Mendy. Real Madrid are talking to Mendy, and they're trying to get him to sign a new contract.
Great. هيثم ولا حاتم؟
لا انا بترجم. شوفوا، بدايه حكى عن ريكاردو رودريغيز، الظهير منتخب سويسرا ولاعب تورينو السابق، حاليا بدون نادي. يعني الظهير الايسر السويسري مرتبط بالانتقال لثلاث انديه سعوديه، لكن احتمال، يقول لك احتمال واحد من هاي الانديه حسب يعني معلومات يعني يمتلكها انه ممكن نادي الفتح قريب من اللاعب. تمام، لكن في ثلاث انديه سعوديه ضمن الصفقه. تمام، نيجي لديفيز ومندي. الوضع العام لديفيز ومندي انه في حال قدوم، او خلينا نحكي ديفيز كصفقه لمدريد، هو الاحتمال العام للصفقه انه ممكن مدريد ينتظر للعام القادم عشان يخطف ديفيز. لكن حاليا في اخبار، لكن الاخبار ليست قويه. نيجي على مندي ظهير ريال مدريد. في حال قدوم ديفيز ممكن ينفتح الباب لخروج مندي، لكن مدريد يحاول حاليا تجديد عقد مندي. لكن في حال قدوم ديفيز ايضا يمكن بقاء مندي وديفيز، لكن انشيلوتي راح يخرج بعد موسم او موسمين من مدريد، وراح يجي تشابي الونسو. هنا ممكن تتغير المعادله.
تمام. في أحد عنده سؤال صعد من المستمعين أو نزلتهم؟ طيب أوكي. تفضلوا يا شباب، اللي عنده سؤال لما أبحث عن شوي سؤال، لأن بن جيكوب أرسل لي على البرايفت يقول أنا قريبا راح أمشي، بيستأذن يعني. فإذا عندكم أي سؤال أخير. Okay, I remember one question, Mr. Ben. Before you leave, I know you talked to me. One question, last question, if you don't mind. Condi, there is rumors today he's coming to Saudi Pro League. And about Stegen, there is rumors before 2 months, before the summer. I don't know if he is coming. Also Lewandowski, if you got any names coming from FC Barcelona.
Yeah, we spoke already about Rafinha, and Saudi would love Rafinha, but Rafinha is in love with Barcelona. Jules Koundé could be a player that Barcelona are prepared to sanction an exit on. I'm told that Joan Laporta is still deciding. And one thing is clear within Barcelona, that Jules Koundé will not go if Ronald Araujo departs. And if Ronald Araujo stays, then maybe Jules Koundé becomes available. But both players will not leave Barcelona this summer. It will be one or the other. And Koundé, I'm told, is more interested in the Premier League than Saudi Arabia, and is waiting to see whether he has any interest. Arsenal are not considering Koundé at the moment. They're focused on Ricardo Caliafore, and they are currently in conversations with the player and Bologna to see if that deal can be finalised. Chelsea, you may remember 12 months ago, came quite close under Thomas Tuchel to signing Koundé before he went to Barcelona. They've not started any talks or made any approach, but it is fair to say that they have had a historical interest in Jules Koundé. And then we wait and see whether Saudi Arabia enter the conversation for Jules Koundé. I'm not aware at the moment of any approach. I'm not aware of any conversation centrally from Saudi clubs around Jules Koundé at this point. So anything that happens, as far as I'm aware, will be new, will be initiated in the coming months. I know we have some links, some rumours, some reports, but those that I speak to that are close to the player or close to Barcelona say that they're not aware at this stage of any offers for Koundé from Saudi Arabia.
شوف بداية هو حكى عن كوندي وانتقال كوندي وصيغة انتقال كوندي، لكن في رافينيا جناح برشلونة مهتم ببيع رافينيا، لكن رافينيا يحب برشلونة ولا يريد الخروج. لكن نرجع لكوندي في حال وصفقته مرتبطة جدا في وضع أراوخو في نادي برشلونة. إذا خرج أراوخو لن يخرج كوندي، وإذا بقي أراوخو سيخرج كوندي. لكن كوندي باتجاه صفقته بشكل كبير للبريمير ليج. لكن بالنسبة في ناديين في البريمير ليج، النادي الأول هو أرسنال، لكن أرسنال بعيد حاليا بسبب ارتباطه بريكاردو كالافيوري المدافع الإيطالي لنادي بولونيا الإيطالي، اللي الآن صفقته قريبة من نادي أرسنال بعد ما أتم الاتفاقات بين اللاعب والناديان. تمام. ونادي تشيلسي اللي كان فيه اهتمام سابق أيام المدرب الألماني توماس توخل قبل سنتين، تمام، لكن تجمدت الصفقة وحاليا النادي لا يهتم فيه. في حال بقي أراوخو في نادي برشلونة في احتمال، تمام، إنه كوندي ينتقل على الدوري السعودي، لكن ليس أكيد باهتمام بالبقاء بأوروبا للاعب.
تمام. آخر
بسأل سؤال أنا،
تفضل.
سؤال سريع والله يا أخوي أبو عزوز. Ben,
Yes.
which player you think from Chelsea will go to Saudi League this summer?
It's a good question. I think Lukaku and Broja are
I just
two to
want
watch.
names with no explanation for the time.
Lukaku,
Okay.
possibly Broja. These are the two, and Chelsea want to sell both of those players. Broja may be more likely to go either to Milan or to stay in England, but he would welcome an offer from Saudi Arabia. And I'm told that he has come under some early consideration, and Lukaku is probably the most likely player. But I think there's other clubs. I think that Manchester United have players more likely to end up in Saudi Arabia than Chelsea. But Lukaku is the one name that I would watch. And then you asked me, did you, in the previous question about ter Stegen too? Was that the other Barcelona player that you wanted to know about?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Ter Stegen.
So nothing has moved yet, but 2 months ago, it was Al Ittihad looking at ter Stegen. And I still think that Al Ittihad wants to bring in another goalkeeper. So we wait and see whether anything resumes. But the approaches from Al Ittihad to ter Stegen were old approaches, not new approaches. So there's been nothing recent with ter Stegen. Ittihad were more this week focused on the English market. They had a delegation in London last week, And prior to appointing Pioli, they had also held some talks with the Fulham manager, Marco Silva. He was the other name that they were looking at. And the Al Ittihad president was in London talking to clubs in the Premier League. And now my understanding is that Ittihad have travelled over to North America, and they are looking at some of the North, Central and South American players. And then they will return to Europe again in, I believe, late July, early August. So there's been no recent conversation with Ittihad and Ter Stegen, not face-to-face, not advanced. This was maybe March, April, May time, and now they've moved on to other targets.
كابتن هيثم.
Okay, Ben. No, I do have question if you let me know. So first, it's a pleasure always having you. You are one of the best, you know.
طيب ما
So
تترجمين أول شيء
yeah.
بعدين تسألون.
Okay. Yeah, okay. حاتم, go ahead.
هو حكى بشكل عام على صفقة تير شتيجن ارتباطه في نادي الاتحاد قديم، ارتباطه في نادي الاتحاد، لكن ما في شيء جديد. وسؤالي كان بالنسبة له مين الأسماء المتوقع انتقالها من نادي تشيلسي للدوري السعودي بشكل عام؟ الأسماء حاليا المرتبطة في الانتقال للدوري السعودي هو روميلو لوكاكو مهاجم تشيلسي المعار إلى روما في العام الماضي للدوري السعودي، المطلوب فيه بمقارب قيمة 38 مليون باوند. وعندك أرماندو بروخا المهاجم الألباني اللي كان معار لنادي فولهام من نادي تشيلسي الإنجليزي.
تمام. هيثم تفضل إذا بتسأله بس على السريع لأن في أبو الفارس بعدك بيسأل
Yeah,
before he leaves.
okay. Yeah, it will be very quickly now. So again, Ben, you know, it's a pleasure having you. So my question will be about we heard about some investigations about the deals of Saudi Arabia, you know, when it comes to Premier League clubs. Many Premier League clubs, you know, raised some investigations or some not positive talks, you know, about this kind of signings. It's big money. There is something under the table, something like that. Do you think this will be affected any deals of Saudi Arabia clubs when it comes to Premier League ones?
It's a good question. And I think the short answer is no. So 12 months ago, Saudi Arabia was the problem. They were irritating clubs with how the business was being done. They were ambitious and they were causing waves. Now I think a lot of the English clubs think Saudi Arabia is the solution because many Premier League clubs have got financial problems and they realize they can sell to Saudi Arabia and it's a good thing. And I think people also realize that the Saudi League is here to stay. It's not going to be like China. It's going to get bigger and better and more powerful. So people have to accept that this is something major. It's early, it's developing, but imagine what the league is going to be like by 2030 in the year of Vision 2030 or 2034 when the World Cup comes. It's going to be big. And Premier League clubs, European clubs, football clubs, they have to accept that Saudi Arabia is trying to do something very exciting, very ambitious, very special. And now I think that the big clubs respect that and they realize that they can do beneficial business with Saudi Arabia. So the big thing 12 months ago was, are these deals being done at what in England we term fair market valuation? In other words, are the fees that are being paid genuine, legitimate, and valued fairly? And there were big talking points in particular with Alan St. Maximum to Al Ali, because that deal was obviously PIF negotiating with PIF. So if Newcastle have got financial problems, are the Saudi part of PIF paying a bigger fee to help Newcastle out? And actually, when you look at it, the fees were not so big. The fee for St. Maximum was much lower than the fee that, for example, Al Hilal paid for Ruben Neves to Wolves. So there's always a chance that if these deals have parties that are related, in other words, PIF and PIF, or maybe in the future there's a foreign investor that buys one of these Saudi teams that are up for sale in the new privatization, and that might mean that there are relationships. And if those relationships lead to deals between clubs where there is conflict, then there will always be scrutiny. And that's completely normal. And there would be the same scrutiny if Al Hilal and Al Ali did business, because they have crossover and the same owner. But I think now the Premier League clubs are comfortable with the situation, and many of them want to sell to Saudi. So when it was Mitrovic, Fulham were annoyed because they kept saying no, and Saudi kept coming back again and again and again. But now I think many of the clubs would like to sell to Saudi Arabia because it's a way of getting players that they want to sell out of the football club for good money, and also clearing the wage bill too. Where I think there is more of a challenge is the English clubs understanding how the deals get done. So they're prepared to do business with Saudi, but the deals get done in different ways. And the English clubs are not used to it, because sometimes the deal makers go to the player and they come to the club very late. We saw that with Jordan Henderson. And sometimes they go to the club and the players and the agent don't even know about it. And we saw that with Almiron. So the English clubs are just trying to understand who is official and who is unofficial, and whether or not they learn about the deals early or whether they learn about the deals late. And there's not much consistency at the moment. And the central deals work one way and the club deals work another way. So it's just understanding something that's very new. And I think we saw this with Verratti. The story I heard about this was Al Hilal were about to sign Verratti and they advanced the negotiations, and PSG were prepared to sell Verratti. He ended up, of course, going to Qatar, not Saudi. And then very late in the negotiations, it was discovered that the alleged agent representing Verratti didn't represent Verratti, and he had no authority. And Al Hilal didn't like that, so they pulled out of the deal, and it was a fake agent. And of course, because there's a lot of money in Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of people trying to benefit. So there's a grey area. And I think what European clubs are trying to understand is who is legitimate and what is the best process to deal professionally with Saudi Arabia, speaking to the appropriate people. And when do they need to go centrally to Michael Emenalo or the ministry? And when can they go direct to the clubs? And when do they speak to the president? And when do they speak to the sporting director? And it's trial and error because it's also new. And I think Europe is still trying to understand Saudi, and Saudi is still trying to understand Europe. But everybody accepts now that Saudi Arabia can be very positive in Europe, whereas maybe 12 months ago, they were more scared by Saudi Arabia because it was new. Now we've had time for it to be a more mutually beneficial relationship. So I think it's very positive, and I'm excited to see what Saudi Arabia do this summer.
كابتن هيثم.
اوكي، انا كان سؤال يا شباب عن بعض التداعيات وبعض الاخبار الغير او نقدر نقول السلبيه عن التعاقدات السعوديه مع بالذات في البريمير ليج، لان كان الموسم اللي فات كان في شكاوى ضد النوع ده من الصفقات، بحيث ان هم كانوا بيتهموا الانديه السعوديه او الاداره الرياضيه السعوديه ان هم بيعلوا قيمه اللاعبين وبيعلوا الصفقات، وان في حاجات بتحصل تحت الترابيزه، وان الصفقات دي الى حد ما فيها نوع من انواع الشبهات. ولكن مع الوقت الانديه دي لقت ان الصفقات مع الانديه السعوديه شيء جيد جدا. كان في غضب مثلا من فولهام في بيع متروفيتش، ولكن مع محاوله الانديه السعوديه مره واثنين وثلاثه واللاعب تم بيعه، الوقت ده كان فيه غضب. لكن بعد كده الانديه بقت منفتحه جدا لبيع اللاعبين، عشان بيقدروا يكسبوا فلوس كويسه من لاعبين موجودين عندهم، يقدروا ان هم يقللوا فاتوره الرواتب بتاعتهم، وكذلك اللاعب نفسه هيكون موافق عشان هيروح ياخد راتب كبير وهيلعب في دوري بقى عليه سبوت واهتمام اعلامي كبير. كان في كمان بعض المقولات ان الدوري السعودي هل هو اقرب بالدوري الصيني اللي كان بيستقطب لاعبين باجور كبيره جدا، ولكن الصورة بتكبر أكتر وأكتر إن السعودية لأ ليها مشروع طموح ب2000 2030 هنشوف الدوري السعودي بشكل مختلف جدًا، و2034 في كأس العالم بيتوقع إن الدوري السعودي يكون من الأقوى في العالم. كذلك في بعض الصفقات اللي كانت مهمة مثلًا زي ماكسيمان كان عليها كلام كبير جدًا، وإن السعر ده كان مُبالغ فيه، ولكن هو بيقارنه بروبن نيفيز لاعب الولفز اللي هو وولفرهامبتون. قيمة الصفقة كانت أعلى من قيمة صفقة ماكسيمان، عشان كان في اتهامات إن نيوكاسل بيحاول يعزّز قوته المالية بالتعاقد مع أو بإتمام بعض التعاقدات مع الأندية السعودية. فهو استشهد بكذا صفقة زي روبن نيفيز وميتروفيتش وفابينيو، وإن قيمة الصفقات دي أكبر بكتير جدًا من قيمة صفقة ماكسيمان. كذلك في شيء مهم جدًا إن الحاجة بس اللي ناقصة الأندية السعودية وبدأت تتطور فيها هو كيفية إتمام التعاقد، بمعنى إن صفقة مثلًا زي هندرسون هم راحوا الأول ل اللاعب، وبعد كده حاولوا إن هم يتفقوا مع الفريق. صفقة زي الميرون هم اتفقوا مع الفريق اللي هو نيوكاسل، وبعد كده لما راحوا للاعب اللاعب رفض. كذلك صفقة فراتي كان فيها نوع من أنواع يعني الأمور ديّة. هو بيعتقد إن الجزء ده بس محتاج يتطور، لأن الأندية الإنجليزية بتتعامل مع الصفقات بنوع مختلف عن الإدارة السعودية أو الإدارة الرياضية السعودية. فهو بيعتقد دي بس النقطة الوحيدة اللي محتاجة إن هم يحصل فيها تطوير مع الأندية السعودية، ولكن الموضوع فيه تطور من الموسم اللي فات. ده كان كل شيء بالنسبة للإجابة دي، وهو بيتوقع إن الموضوع ده ما يمثلش أي عقبة، بالعكس كل الأندية في الدوريات الكبرى دلوقتي بيجدوا إن فرص التعاقد مع الأندية السعودية هي فرص عظيمة جدًا وكذلك بناء العلاقات مع الأندية السعودية ومع الإدارة الرياضية السعودية، لأن ده هيساعدهم إن هم يكسبوا أموال جيدة، وكمان يكون في تواصل ومنافع مالية كبيرة جدًا. ده كل شيء.
طيب شكرا
شكرا كابتن
هيثم.
هيثم.
على السريع بس أبو الفارس عط سؤالك قبل لا يمشي مستر بن، يعني he is leaving.
طيب اوكي، السلام عليكم. اول شيء first of all I would like to thank you my brother Abu Azuz and your co-host for giving us the chance to hear from Mr. Ben, and let me, if you can permit that I reverse the content of the questions. You give us very good news about the movements and transfers to the to the Saudi Pro League. But now let me reverse the content of the questions, and I would like to ask you about a news here from one journalist here in Saudi Arabia. He said that there is
what's the name of the journalist, Saudi Arabia?
Without
Could you just
without mentioning the name, but
maybe he means Rudy Galetti, صح؟
no,
Saudi
journalist. He said that
is he راجع لقدام؟
لا يا رجال. He said that Saud Abdel Hamid, who is the right back of Al Hilal and national team of Saudi Arabia, is moving to Aston Villa, and Aston Villa give some let's say they want to sign this player, and the player is he has the will to go to there. I don't know if you have any idea about this news or no.
At the moment, nothing to add. I've seen the reports. I respect other journalists. The thing about Aston Villa is that they've been looking for money, not additions. They sold Douglas Luiz to Juventus, and they did get 2 players as part of that deal. But it would surprise me significantly if Aston Villa sign a left back. This is the main point, because Aston Villa 10 days ago signed Ian Maatsen from Chelsea, who reached the Champions League final with Dortmund when he was on loan from Chelsea. And Ian Maatsen is a young, talented left back who will be fighting to start.
He's a right back, Mr. Ben.
I say the players are right back that they're looking for. It could be possible. I don't have any new information to add on that front. Aston Villa are happy with their window so far, but they have to wait, as they have done, until this new financial year. The old financial year ended 30th of June. Now it's a new financial year. Maybe they will be able to spend. So it could be one to watch. What I would say is that from the Saudis' point of view, they are interested in selling players or loaning players to England or Europe because they think this is very positive. And with specifically Saeed Abdul Hamid, I am told that many clubs have looked at the player in Europe. So I can tell you 6 or 7 teams that have looked at the player, have scouted the player. Olympiacos, Nottingham Forest, Genoa, and then in Germany, Hertha Berlin. So there are a lot of clubs that are aware of the player. And the first choice right back at Aston Villa is Matty Cash. And he has been linked with a move to Milan. So should he depart, then they will need a right back. And then we wait and see whether or not they proceed with conversations with Al Hilal. I think another player they really like is a player called Trey Hume, who is at Sunderland and is very talented. But at the moment, Aston Villa are waiting because they need to understand what the situation is regarding Matty Cash. And once they know whether Matty Cash is going to stay or go, only then will they decide if they're going to sign a right back.
اوكي
Thank you very much.
ممكن نترجم بعد اذا الضيف ما يمشي لانه يقول عنده بودكاست. There is any time for other question, Mr. Ben? Last question or
One more question. I give you a bonus question.
thank you. Okay. There.
He's gonna pay some money for the question if he would like to
I
ask.
would never take any of your money. It's my pleasure. You have me for free.
First of all, before I will ask you, just there is any goalkeeper is coming to Al Ittihad other than Ter Stegen, because there is another name. His name, I think, Bintu or something like that.
Yeah, Bento. This has concrete substance. Bento, an incredible goalkeeper. Some European clubs have looked at Bento as well. He was linked with
Ben
Chelsea.
to the Brazilian Ben, the one who plays in Atletico Paranaense, I think.
Yes, Bento, the goalkeeper. He was linked with Chelsea previously, but I am told that Chelsea did not make an approach for him despite some links. And this is a player that Ramon Planes at Al Ittihad really likes. It is a difficult transfer because there is a big amount of interest. And what we may see, for example, is Jan Oblak could leave Atletico Madrid, and then Atletico Madrid will either try for Mamardashvili, the Georgian goalkeeper, or Bento. And I am told that the player at the moment is considering whether or not he has European options with Champions League football. So let's see whether Al Ittihad decide to make a move. It's definitely true that Planes likes Bento. And again, Al Ittihad may not get Ederson because he may go to Al Nassr. So if they don't get Ederson, they will look for another goalkeeper. So there is going to be a kind of a domino effect with all of these goalkeepers in Europe and in Saudi Arabia as well. Chesney falls through. Maybe that means Nassr get Ederson. Maybe that means Al Ittihad have to look elsewhere. By the way, as well, another point in all of this is that Al Ittifaq, Steven Gerrard's club, also desperately want a goalkeeper as well. I don't think they're going to have big money to enter into the conversation for Ederson. The other name, of course, is Alisson at Liverpool, who Liverpool think is going to stay, by the way. So that one is maybe off the table. But what becomes very interesting is that Ittifaq, Steven Gerrard's club, I keep saying that because I always get confused between Ittihad and Ittifaq. So Ittifaq with an E, Gerrard's club, they've just appointed Liverpool's goalkeeping coach. So he has a lot of pull. He has a big network. And many goalkeepers may want to come to Al Ittifaq from Europe because they want to work under John Achterberg, who is the Liverpool goalkeeping coach that has just joined Ittifaq. So they may be able to get a big, important goalkeeper, especially if they are given central funds, because they have one of the best goalkeeping coaches now in the world. So that may be one to watch as well. But yes, Bento could be a possibility, but I think he might want to stay in Europe. And then, as we've said before, Edison, still maybe Chesney, but not necessarily to Nasser. That could be one to watch as well. And then in an ideal world, Saudi Arabia would want Alisson Becker, but I think Liverpool are quite confident that he will stay.
Great.
Captain Aitam.
This should be answered before you leave with Jacob, because Jurgen Klopp, is he coming to Saudi League?
No, nothing close there. Klopp is very genuine. He wants to take a break. So I don't think we'll see Klopp in work for 12 months now.
We also would like to take some break. Also, you would like to take some break before your podcast, Mr. Ben Jacob. Thank you for your joining us. Thank you for your coming. I think this is for the second or third time with Abu Azuz.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure. I'm always happy to come on. So have a great summer, everybody. I wish everyone well. I hope everybody's clubs get the players that they are looking for. I also hope that everybody had a good Eid as well from a few weeks ago. I wish you a belated happy Eid. I know I'm a little bit late, but it's the first time that we've spoken. And yeah, the Saudi window opens in mid-July. So I'm excited to see how it goes, and I look forward to speaking soon. But for now, good night and shukran.
Thank you.
Good night.
You're welcome, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. Ben. I appreciate your coming, and we are hosting you. You are the GOAT. Thank you very much. شكرا للشباب أبو صالح، حاتم، هيثم، الجميع، أبو الفارس. بس قبل لا نختم فيه كلمتين إذا تسمحوا لي.
لا بس قبل لا تختم أبو عزة، أنت مشغول ولا 5 دقائق؟
لا خذ راحك عادي، أنا ما عندي أي مشكلة.
الله يسلمك.
في بس هذا الإحصائيات حق فيفا، الأكاونت هذا ضيفنا الثاني يعني يعتبر، بس أنا قلت خلينا نأجله يعني للهاف سبيس الأخير يعني. فإذا عندكم أي سؤال عن الإحصائيات عن الدوري السعودي أو الكرة الآسيوية، هو الآن يعني عنده بعض المواضيع راح يتكلم فيها، وأتمنى أنكم تساعدونا بالترجمة. راح يتكلم عن ممكن خيسوس والإحصائيات اللي كانت في الدوري السعودي الموسم الماضي أو في الكرة الآسيوية عموما. Hello, Mr. I forgot your name. Philip, hello. How are you?
Hi, Sultan. I'm doing very well. Good to speak to you again.
Thank you, and we are happy to host you. I'm a big fan of your work. Good account. You got a lot of information about stats around the world. I just want to ask you about Jesus and Al Hilal, and you can give us some information about the last season. You know, some numbers. If you can speak another subject, you are free to speak. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you as well to your cherished audience. So, in terms of the numbers, I will first speak on George Jesus and his incredible stats with Al Hilal last season. So, last season, he played a record of 59 games. He won 51 games, drew 5 games, and lost 3 matches, making it 86.4%, and that is 2.7 points per game. And in terms of last...
Can we have it again, please?
Okay.
59 with friendly matches?
59 official games.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He won 53?
He won 51 wins.
Yeah.
59 official games, 51 wins, 5 draws, 3 losses. In terms of the win percentage, 86.4%. And points per game, 2.7 points.
What can I ask you about the 3 games that he he had lost.
Can I provide more details on the games that he lost?
Yeah.
Okay. I think notable amongst that loss was the loss against Alain.
This is, I think, the only lost in his
Alain in the Asian Champions
Yeah,
League. He also lost against Al Nassr in the Arab Club Champions Cup.
That was a friendly match.
Yes.
It wasn't official. You said officially games, right?
It's part of the record for the season. So friendly games, including official matches. So the 3 games that he lost on record, let me put it that way, on record, was the Asian Champions League game where Al Ain beat Al Hilal by 4-2 on April 17th this year. The other 2 games was, let me get
Al-Nasr, and which one is the third one?
I think Asad with Asad in the same competition in the Arab club.
Exactly.
But it is also considered as a friendly matches, not our formal matches.
Okay. On mine.
يتكلم عن الإحصائية العامة.
هو ذكر في البداية أنها رسمية، فهمت؟ عشان كذا.
ذكر officially. هو ذكر officially صحيح؟
he said officially.
The Arab Championship, as far as I'm concerned, is not a friendly game. It's an official tournament. So, as part, based on the work that I do as a statistician, unless you know otherwise than the official information that I have, because this information that I'm giving, it's actually on the coach's official record as a coach. And so that is it for Jesus. But Jesus had an incredible season with Al Hilal. And if there are any questions on Jesus' numbers, I'm ready to take those questions. But
I will translate first. I will translate.
Yeah. And the final,
معلش
some players they got red card, then they played in the next match. So this is of course this is not official game.
لحظة أبو صالح، بس فيه ترجمة السؤال الأخير، ترى نسيته يا شباب ترجمة حق بن جيكوب، بعدين
كابتن هيثم عندك ترجمة السؤال والله راح.
يعني الشباب يطلبون منا تحت في المنشن ترجمة السؤال الأخير، بعدين إذا ترجمونا كلام الأخ.
السؤال الأخير كان عن السؤال الأخير كان عن الحارس البرازيلي، وهو كان إجابته إن في عنصر جذب مهم جدا في فريق ستيفن جيرارد، وهو إنه تعاقد مع مدرب الحراس اللي كان في ليفربول، وهو مدرب ليه اسمه ويعتبر عنصر جذاب لأي حارس مميز. فبالتالي هو استبعد صفقة أليسون، لأن بيعتقد إن أليسون يعني هيكون باقي في ليفربول الموسم الجاي، ولكن إيدرسون ممكن يكون عامل جذب إن هو يروح الفريق مع ستيفن جيرارد ومع مدرب الحراس المعروف. كذلك ما بيستبعدش ان يكون في خيارات تانية وخيارات جذابة واوبشنز تكون اسماء كبيرة، لان المدرب ده زي ما قلت بيمثل عامل جذب للحراس الكبار. ده كان خلاصة السؤال الأخير.
بس في معلومة كمان يا إخوان عن بنته، يعني حارس أتلتيكو برنينسي، الحارس للأمانة 22 سنة من الحراس المميزين على مستوى العالم، ارتبط بكثير أندية، تمام، حارس جدا الرياكشن تبعه عالي، والأمانة إذا جاء الدوري السعودي إضافة كبيرة، لكن اهتماماته بشكل عام هو حابب يلعب كرة قدم أوروبية، كمان هاي نقطة ذكرها. هذا بالنسبة لآخر سؤال يا جماعة الخير.
تمام. طيب
وبالنسبة للإحصائية اللي ذكرها بس قبل ما تسألوه، هو ذكر إنه خيسوس مع نادي الهلال أرقامه ممتازة وأرقامه رائعة، إنه لعب 59 مباراة، فاز ب51، تعادل 5 وخسر 3. المباريات اللي خسرها قدام العين ومباريتين في أمام النصر وأمام السد في البطولة العربية اللي كانت في بداية الموسم إذا تتذكروها يا جماعة الخير. واختلافه مع الشباب إذا كانت هالبطولة عربية رسمية أو لا، لأنه ذكر إنه هاي الأرقام رسمية. تفضل أبو عزوز.
تفضل. اللي عنده سؤال أنا
حاتم بعدين أبو عزوز حاتم، لأن أنا ذكرت له أن في لعيبة أخذوا كرت أحمر بعد يعني أول مباراة في مباراة رسمية مفترض أنهم يوقفون، لا لعبوا. فلو كانت فعلا بطولة رسمية كان خلاص يعني منع من اللعب، إذا مباراة بطولة ودية. أيضا أنا أرجع لتصريح وزير الرياضة اسمه الأمير الفيصل ذكر أن هذه بطولة ودية، وهو رئيس الاتحاد العربي يعني بالنهاية، فهي بطولة ودية يعني بالنهاية. عشان
تمام
كذا الخسارة
صحيح
الوحيدة للخرخسوس فقط مباراة العين اللي كانت في المباراة 7 شوال، نعرفها كلنا.
صحيح تمام. في any questions to Mr. Philip؟ في أحد عنده سؤال الأكاونت
والله انا
الخاص
بذكر
بخصوص
له
الإحصائيات
اذكر له
قبل
سؤال
لا
بس
نختم يعني حاتم، لأننا غلقنا الآن ساعتين تقريبا.
تمام
تفضل.
براحتك ابو عزوز، ما في اي مشكله. بذكر له بس سؤال الاخ اللي قال لي فيليب اسمه هو ابو عزوز.
اي نعم فيليب.
Philip, you here, man?
Yes, I'm here with you. So
He's
let me just
asking
give
you.
a bit of clarity on Jesus' impressive run with Al Hilal last season. Al Hilal were crowned the Saudi Super Cup champions. They won the Saudi Pro League with the most points. They won the Kings Cup. They were the Asian Cup, Asian Champions League semi-finalist. They broke notable records. Notable amongst it was the longest winning streak in football history. That is 34 wins. The longest consecutive winning streak in all tournaments. They also recorded the longest winning streak in the world at the time, and then the longest consecutive winning streak in Saudi Professional League history. The most points in Saudi Professional League history. They went 49 consecutive games with Al Hilal without a defeat. And they recorded the strongest attacking team and the strongest defensive team as well. And he's had a very good record with his second stint with Al Hilal. I don't know if you would like to translate what I just said.
اوكي او ترانسليت يا اخوان. هو بيقول لكم انه نادي الهلال الموسم الحالي يعني كسر اكبر معدل انتصارات متتاليه لفريق في العالم وفي الدوري السعودي، وايضا كان نادي الهلال يمتلك اقوى خط هجوم واقوى خط دفاع. But I have one question for you, and it will be the last question in the space because we are opening the space from 2 hours. Philip,
Yes.
They are telling you like the tournament in the beginning of the season, the Arab tournament was friendly because you know in official tournaments you can't have a red card and you play the next match, and there is some players who take a red card and they play the next match. So it like شو مين الامير بس اغلبك اخوي هزاع؟
لا اعتقد الفيصل
وزير الرياضة. وزير الرياضة السعودي.
The Minister of the Sports.
The Minister of Sport in Saudi, he said this is a friendly tournament and everyone expected this tournament to be friendly, not to be official.
Okay.
Also Mr. Shagran is one of the best I think resources in Saudi Arabia here.
Okay.
So he also said this is a friendly game. It wasn't really official game. So as a statistician, it couldn't be considered as I think it was 54 official matches. That is the total I think.
طيب راح نختم يا شباب. ثانك يو فيليب، شكرا ابو صالح، شكرا حاتم، شكرا.
بس ابو عزوز قبل لا تختم نص دقيقه بس تسمح لي.
شكرا ميثم، تفضل.
ترى كلام بن جيكوب
ايه بتعلق عندك الختام. تفضل ابو صالح.
ايه قبل لا نختم، وشكرا للجميع من تواجد، شكرا للجميع. ترى كلام بن جيكوب قبل شوي يعني كان يعني تعرف اللي كب معلومات في وقت قصير. فشكرا للجميع يعني من ساهم في الترجمة، من تواجد، من سأل. أنا اللي استشفيته من الكلام كله ما راح تكون صيفية قوية، راح تكون صيفية يعني على مستوى القادسية، على مستوى الشباب، ممكن تعديلات على مستوى يعني على الاتحاد، ممكن بعض التعديلات في النصر. ما راح تكون صيفية يعني نفس يعني، وذكر أن أكثر من 95 لاعب متواجدين من العام الماضي. ما راح يكون يعني بالنسبة للهلال ما نعرف صراحة شو الوضع، لأن الهلال صراحة رايح كأس العالم، مفترض إنه يعني أقل شيء لاعبين سوبر. إذا بيجي دي بروين، هو ذكر الشيء هذا يمكن بداية المساحة، إذا بيجي دي بروين ففي أفضلية للهلال، لأن الهلال بيلعب كأس العالم ويجي من السنة القادمة. هذا أعتقد أبرز شيء يهم الهلاليين. كاسيميرو هو ذكر إنه في ربط للهلال، مستحيل كاسيميرو يجي الهلال، لأن الهلال ما يحتاج عبد. يعطيك العافية أبو عزوز،
حبيبي
شكرا لك يا حاتم،
حبيبي يا
هيثم،
عزام.
جميع من تواجد.
هو
شكرا لجميع من
اهم
ساهم.
نقطه ممكن كانت في المساحه انه اقوى سوق للقادسيه، لانهم كانوا طالعين من دوري يلو، لهم وضعهم الخاص بسبب الانتقالات. يعني هنيئا لمشجعين القادسيه. شكرا ابو عزوز على
صحيح.
المساحه الجميله. تفضل المايك معك.
شكرا لك أبو صالح، حاتم، هيثم، أبو فارس، الجميع، مستر فيليب، ثانك يو، متحدثين ومستمعين اللي صاروا معنا. كانت مساحة جدا جميلة مليئة بالمعلومات من مستر جيكوب بصراحة. يعني كانت معلومات دسمة. يعطيكم العافية جميعا، وكل تمنياتنا للأندية السعودية ولدورينا الجميل بالتوفيق دائما والنجاح من أكبر لأكبر. نشوفكم إن شاء الله المساحة القادمة وانتقالات قادمة إن شاء الله. نحضر ضيف مستقبلي ممكن بين جيكوب أو صحفي آخر، ونحتاج الشباب معنا كمترجمين. إن شاء الله نشوفكم المساحة القادمة. راح نبلغكم إن شاء الله إذا في أي مساحة مستقبلية عن الانتقالات السعودية واللاعبين اللي سيحضرون. شكرا لكم، يعطيكم العافية.